I went over to my computer and there was a blue screen. In the middle of the blue screen was an icon that said, "Open for discussion." I clicked on it and it revealed
Nightmare Files.
My name is Martin and I have a 10-year-old son whose name is Lewis. Recently, my son asked me to buy and install a game for his PC named Among Us. He's been playing it every day since. I don't really play video games, but I asked him how he was enjoying it, and if he was playing with his friends or not. He told me yeah, he plays with his friend Colin. One night, I had made Lewis dinner, and told him to come down and eat. He said he was in the middle of the game on Among Us. He then asked me to play as he went to eat. I laughed, but I agreed. I wanted to see what this game was my son was playing so much anyway. I sat down and put the headset on, and did my best to start playing. A discussion popped up and I saw Colin's name. When he spoke, his voice wasn't what I was expecting. It was a man's voice. He kind of sounded like he was in his mid-30s at least. I quit the game and went to ask Lewis some questions about his friend Colin. I thought maybe it was his dad playing at the time. I asked Lewis what class his friend Colin was in, and what he looked like. Lewis told me he didn't know. I said, "How don't you know? He's your friend from school, isn't he?" Lewis shook his head no, and he said he's not my friend from school. He's my friend from Among Us. Lewis said he played with Colin and Colin added him and plays with him every time he's online. I'm not really any good with video games or computers, so I asked Lewis to block Colin and never play with him again. I didn't feel comfortable with an older man playing with my 10-year-old son so much. Later that night, before Lewis went to bed, I asked him if he had done what I asked him to do, and blocked Colin on his game. He said yeah. He also said when he said it on the mic that he couldn't play with Colin anymore, Colin got very angry and started shouting at him. I'm glad I found out when I did. But there was something wrong with this Colin. I thought that would be the end of it until the other day when I picked Lewis up from school. I saw he had a drawing with him. I couldn't see what it was exactly because I was driving, but I asked Lewis if he drew this in art class. He told me no. He found it in his bag during the lunch break. When we got home, I had a better look at the drawing. It was a drawing of two characters from Among Us. They were both holding hands. Above one of the characters was the name Lewis, and above the other character was the name Colin. It disturbs me that whoever this Colin is, he knows where my son's school is, and somehow had access to Lewis's bag. I've told both the police and the school about this, and I haven't heard anything or had another incident like this since. Just be careful. We all know about the game called Among Us, but not everyone knew about it back in 2018. I downloaded the app back when it first came out, along with a few of my friends and some of their friends. We play a lot of games where it was just us and no one else. There was my friend Gianna, who would always invite this guy named Tyler, but I didn't know him and the rest of us didn't know him either. It went maybe a month of playing every day to every other day, but I couldn't stand that guy Tyler. He would always try to turn everyone against each other and would get mad that I call him out. So one day, I told everyone that I won't play with them again if Tyler continues to play. So everyone, including Gianna, chose to not play with Tyler anymore. That decision was made while we were in the middle of a game, and Tyler was voted out. Before he left, he said he'd see me around. We all laughed sarcastically and said that he's mad and he's a tough guy. The next day, I was just getting home from school like I usually do, and ate some food. My older brother had a basketball game because he played for the varsity team in our high school, so my family left me because I just wanted to stay home. As I were laying down in bed in my room, which is on the first floor near the back of the house. I heard my back fence move. I looked out of my window, and I saw that the light came on because it was dark by this time. I didn't see anything or anyone, so I continued watching TV and texting. I then began to doze off. The knock on my window immediately woke me up completely. I looked out the window, and standing there was some guy in a black Nike hoodie, black sweatpants with a pipe in his hand. The guy smiled at me and said, "Hey, I'm Tyler. What's up now?" He hit my window with the pipe, and it cracked the window, then ran to my back door. I called my parents and started to scream and yell. They were actually pulling up to the house from the game, getting ready to walk in. I ran out of the front door, and I'm guessing that guy ran away hopping my back fence. I called Gianna and asked her how he knew where I lived. She told me that he was actually her boyfriend from another school, and threatened her if she wouldn't give him my address. I've never been so afraid in my life. And I also never knew anyone could get that mad over video games. My name is Paul. I play a lot of video games with my group of friends. Recently, we've been playing Among Us most nights. Every time my friends and I play video games together, we always used our mics, and a lot of times, we just trolled other players. We were playing Among Us and had a lot of discussions about who the killers could be. Me and my two friends, whose names were Harry and Wayne, thought it was the guy named Sean, and so did the rest of the lobby. We eventually voted him to be ejected. During the discussions, Sean was getting more and more aggressive, insisting it wasn't him who was the killer. And me and my two friends actually found it quite funny. After the game, Harry had received a message from a guy named Sean saying he wasn't the killer, and we shouldn't have ejected him, and so on. Wayne thought it would be funny to invite Sean into our lobby to troll him the whole game, and tell the rest of the players in the discussion that we think Sean's the killer. So that's what we did. We played the 2 games with the Sean guy, each time trolling him and saying that he was the killer and getting him ejected. Sean eventually left our lobby, and we didn't play with him again that night. I'm a light sleeper and wake up to the slightest of sounds. I woke up around 2 a.m. by the sound of a car. I looked out my window and I saw a car parked just outside my house. The car was still running, but no one got out, no one got in the car. I looked around and saw my street to be empty. Just before trying to go back to sleep, my computer started up. I went over to my computer and there was a blue screen. In the middle of the blue screen was an icon that said, "Open for discussion." I clicked on it and it revealed a very gory photo of a man who was cut in half, and underneath was written, "You have been ejected." I tried to move the mouse and turn off my computer, but it didn't work. The only thing to do was to look at the gruesome photo. My computer did turn off eventually, and as soon as it did, that car that was outside my house slowly drove off. The next day I woke up and saw a text from my friends Harry and Wayne, and they both said they had similar experiences, that they received weird pictures on the computer and phones, pictures of people cut in half. I asked them both if they think it was something to do with that guy we were trolling. They both didn't know what to think. I thought that Sean guy somehow found out where we lived and hacked our devices. What scares me is how real the photos were, and how he knew where me and my friends lived and was able to hack our devices so easily. My name is Rick, and for the past week and a half, every evening, my friends and I have been playing Among Us. 3 nights ago, I texted my 2 friends who usually play with me if they have time to play. One of them said they were too busy, and the other one, whose name is Rick, didn't reply, so I assumed he was busy. I was going to play anyway, but I saw that Eric was on the game and invited me to play. I figured he saw me on the game, invited me, and couldn't be bothered to reply. So Eric and I played that evening on Among Us. What was unusual was Eric was very quiet when we were having discussions. He was on the mic, but I could barely hear what he was saying. I actually texted him a few times telling him that he needs to turn his mic up, but he never replied. After playing for a few hours, I had enough and I decided to call it a night. I spoke on the mic to Eric and I said I was going offline, but he didn't reply again. A few hours later, I got a text from Eric saying, "Sorry, I didn't reply. I was out and forgot my phone at home." I was confused, thinking, how was I just playing with him if he wasn't at home? Before I could reply, he sent another text saying, "What do you mean, turn my mic up?" I texted him back saying, "How did you play Among Us with me if you weren't at home?" He said, "I haven't played Among Us since yesterday, but it looks like someone has been in my room and also had gone through all my things. Eric lives alone." I replied saying that it was definitely his account on the game and I was playing with him. And I even heard his mic being used. Eric replied saying that he thinks someone had broken into his house, and also his spare key was missing from his garden, and a Snickers bar from his kitchen table. It creeps me out to know that whoever snuck into Eric's house and somehow knew where his spare key was, played Among Us with me, and I had no idea who it was.
Nightmare Files.